what she does.
I bet she will.
Okay, I'll see you later.
Have a good one. Take some cookies for the road.
I'm all cookied out.
Are you going to leave the cookies that you brought? You never even opened
You
them.
never know. They may multiply while we're not here.
Okay.
Yes, people will bring cookies. I have faith.
As long as there's something moving on the screen and the sound coming out, there will be cookies.
All
It's
right.
like in A Field of Dream. What did he say? Make tea and they will bring cookies? Is that what he said?
Something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
You
Well.
brew it and they will come.
Mm-hmm. Brew it and they will come.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what to do now.
Of course, tea drinkers pay a steep price, don't they?
For drinking tea? How's that?
Steep.
Oh.
I usually charge when I have to explain my puns.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got no business charging if they're that bad. Come on.
I guess
So bad you got to explain them. You can't be charging for
I
that.
got time for another cup.
Well, I can eat another cookie. Oh, Susan, I ate one of these kind. Oh, well.
Well, I'm sorry, but I like the brown ones. We're going to get you some more.
Hmm?
Natural.
Oh, we have more. We
sugar.
got a box over there.
Oh, okay.
See that box?
Good. Excellent.
Well, what? You're not much for talking politics, are you?
Politics bores me.
Okay.
I don't see to talk politics, you really have to have an investment. You have to be a Democrat or a Republican.
Mm-hmm.
And I think both of them are, well, sorry, stupid.
That's true. There you go.
I mean, look at the 3 or 2.5, whatever, however much of Hillary's left in the race. Look at the candidates that we have to choose from. I don't like any of them. So.
Well,
There's only one man I would trust to be president, but I don't have time to do it.
well, I was watching.
I'd like to have access to Air Force One, though. That would be nice.
Uh-huh. The chick magnet, right?
Chick magnet, yeah. I've said that before. It's true, though. I mean, ask Bill Clinton.
I was watching it all the stuff last night, and the way it came off to me was, what a circus that they have put on for our entertainment.
Well, and look how many tens of millions of dollars has been wasted, too. I mean, literally wasted by all the candidates, not just Hillary and Obama, but look how much the second-tier candidates on both sides spent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a lot of money spent for what little result we've got out of it so far.
So you don't, but that's because you don't find it that entertaining. So you don't. You're not getting your entertainment dollars back out of that, are you?
I actually find it hugely entertaining because I like farces,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what it's been.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many people in the U.S. who are better qualified to be president than any of the ones running. But we seem to be adept at electing people who aren't super good presidents. Except for Teddy Roosevelt, of course.
Was he a good one?
I thought so. He's my favorite. Yeah. I've been I've been researching Teddy of late. I can't say why, but since it involves a commercial.
Oh, what's the best thing Teddy did? If there's one thing that you say, that like this guy was the best president because he did this thing.
He fought corruption. He helped the United States expand. He conservation. That's probably the major thing that his major place in history. And a lot of people don't realize it's because he was a Republican. National parks and all the rest. He got conservation really started in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And it was at a time when we had people like, what's his name here that started the Biltmore? State Forest.
Mhm.
Some real big names who were encouraged by the federal government to actually go ahead and get started on conservation instead of just clear cutting everything.
That's true. And in the areas that we live in, we saw that these mountains were pretty much shaved bald, weren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
As they came
I
in.
mean, you should see pictures from the turn of the 19th century. They built these little narrow gauge railroads all over the place and just took every log they could find.
And they did that in England. That's why they don't have any trees there. In Europe now, that because they took them all out so much. I mean, I'm amazed that ours actually have grown back really well.
Well, I go in the national forest a lot, and it's starting to come back pretty nicely. So, and there are a few patches of primeval forest left around.
Primeval forest?
Forest that's never been logged.
Right.
Not many, but there are a few. I saw one down in Tennessee, Memorial Day weekend. That was really nice. Good tea.
So you wanna.
So, Bob, I'd be glad to talk about politics. I'll just give you my opinion on it.
You wanna a tube mic preamp? There's a. Oh, I bet you didn't bring me a schematic
for the phone patch.
For a phone patch.
I'll get it for you. Where's the tube preamp? Somebody give me
It's
one?
gone now. I was looking. I had the schematic up. That's what made me think of.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, I have one.
No, tube mic preamp.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
It's not very good, but
No.
yeah, it sounds good. That's one thing people don't realize about tubes. They have that high electrical isolation, so they really can sound good.
That's right.
Very low noise. Now I had a Macintosh for a number of years with the chrome chassis and everything, tube amp. Now that was clean.
Well,
Stuff. By the way, Macintosh was the name of, I don't think they're still in business, but they were the name of very high-end stereo amplifiers. And when Apple came out with the Macintosh computer, I think they wound up having to pay some sort of royalty rate to the Macintosh company, which is up in Binghamton, New York, or it was, for the rights to use the name.
I thought that was strange that there were Apple computers, right, and then they came out with a Macintosh, which made sense because a Macintosh is an Apple, but they hadn't come out with a Granny Smith computer, have they?
No, they
or a Red Delicious, or
they came out with Lisa, but that wasn't no.
Is that a kind of apple?
No, I don't think so. It was a rotten apple to them. That was a big bomb.
Was it? I don't even know about it. When did that happen?
That was a predecessor to the Macintosh, the Lisa.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember when the first Apple computer came out. I already had a computer by then, so I didn't think much of it.
What did you have for a computer? Or was there a processor? They weren't even up to 8080s yet, were they?
No, the first processor I ever used was an 8008. And my first personal computer was an MP68, which was a Motorola chip, 8-bit chip. And I think it ran at 52 hertz or something like that. It wasn't even 100. But it was a good computer. And my second computer I still have, and it still runs, that I got in 77, I think.
And what was it?
Smoke Signal Broadcasting. Also an MP6800. I did a lot of stuff with it, though. I had two 56K floppy drives, 56K.
Right. Oh, you had a floppy drive. Oh, my God, I didn't.
Well, they didn't have hard drives readily available then.
No, I know, but I didn't even have a floppy drive. I was putting.
I started with the cassette tape.
Cassette tape.
Yeah,
exactly.
And you'd spend 20 minutes loading the program in and bomb on the last, and you have to start all over again.
Well, mine worked pretty good. I was actually impressed with how well the cassette worked for storing programs.
Yeah, well, it works.
But my first computer, maybe I don't know. Should we run backgrounds or should we?
It's your show.
No. It is indeed. And what a show it's been so far, right?
It's been a fascinating show. I've stayed awake through most of it.
Well, it's good for the insomniacs. Now, if you're watching in this little show that started at 2 a.m. in the morning, it's darn near time to go to bed, guys.
Yeah. But wait till the show's over.
Start getting ready for bed, kids. Why, it's nearly 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yep, it's early.
You don't want to. No.
What are we looking for?
I'm just looking forward to see if there's anything. Oh, I know what. I was looking forward to see, did I want to run a background, and I found one I wanted to run.
Oh.
And then we'll go with that one.
You know, we still need to work on the lights for that wall.
Well, I've done something. Can you see how much bluer it looks in general?
Yeah, that helps.
Well, I white balanced the camera. Can you believe that? And I also pumped up the color.
That would help a lot, yeah.
I also pumped up the color. I white balanced the camera and I pumped up the color. And
White balance is important. I usually have a piece of paper in my pocket that I white balance when I took it out before it came, I guess.
well, for this one, I just pointed it at a white spot on the wall and did it on that. Figured that would work.
Yeah, but it would work better, probably more accurately, with just a white piece of paper about that far in front of it. As long as it's getting the same light as the rest of the room is.
Well, something like that.
It looks
Does it look?
even on that monitor, it looks good. It's good color.
I've pumped the color up one notch.
Yeah.
From like it's got a place where it's like calibrated. It should be here. I've saturated it one notch past that.
I like saturating. When I edit those waterfall programs, I saturate it slightly, and it really brings out the vivid colors. And it works since I'm using natural stuff and everything. It really looks vivid.
I first noticed that the first time I really noticed that was Johnny Carson show. Used to, they set their cameras that way, and they.
Well, yeah, I watch the HD channel and stuff like that on cable, and they do that. So that's how I learn. I watch and see what other people do, and then figure out why do they do it that way. And sometimes they have a reason, and I understand it. It's frightening, but I do understand it.
How's that? That makes our molecule come to life,
and
doesn't it?
Nuclear
Our atom.
reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I just finished reading a novel last night. There was quite a good thriller about the nuclear power plant down in Brunswick County on the coast, which I've actually seen, by the way.
Brunswick County is North Carolina?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. Okay,
Wilmington.
All right.
Brunswick and Hanover County right beside, and my brother-in-law used to live down there in Oak Island. We go quite a bit. And they had someone that was contaminating the moon pool. You know where the moon pool is? The moon pool is a big body of water inside the a containment building where they store the spent rods.
Okay.
And it's quite radioactive. In fact, a murder was committed by somebody giving someone a bottle of radioactive water.
Mm-hmm. Is this in the book this happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's fiction. But it was a good book. It's by one of my favorite authors. So. Yeah. I used to like it when I do seminars and stuff, and still do actually. When people would ask me who's my favorite author.
You say it's the moon pool?
Yeah.
Why is it called the moon pool? Does it glow?
It glows from the radioactivity.
Right.
It's an old engineering term, but yeah, it's got this eerie blue glow because the rods are still radioactive, the fuel rods from the reactors.
But they're spent. But they still got enough to make it glow.
Yeah.
And they store that there until what? Until they open up Yucca Mountain?
If they ever do. I went through, in fact, we went through it twice, going there and back through Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which is, you know, where they did the Manhattan Project during World War II, developing the atomic bomb.
Right.
It's called America's Secret City. In fact, we know it's a secret city because they got signs at the city limits that says, "Welcome to America's Secret City."
Secret City.
And they still do a lot of atomic work there, and they've got huge buildings that are so radioactive they can't use them anymore. I saw a documentary on that not long ago.
Right.
One of the buildings is, that one time when it was built, was the largest building in the world.
Really?
And now it's so radioactive, they can't use it, they can't tear it down, it just sits there.
And they can't de-radioactive it.
Oh, in a few thousand years it'll be okay.
They can't wash it out.
No, it's too big, I guess, too much in it. But on the other hand, you know, I'm not against atomic energy. You know, it's something that we need to get back to, unfortunately, because oil's going away.
Right.
I mean, countries like France use atomic energy. There's at least 3 or 4 active nuclear plants in North Carolina. And I think 4 in Tennessee, Watts Bar and several others. So.
Tennessee's a big nuclear state.
Yeah.
Have you ever ridden in a Renault?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I almost bought one. I almost bought a diesel Renault station wagon back in the 70s. But I didn't.
That's what I was going to say. Do you think that they should let the French have nuclear power plants?
Well, let me emphasize your point. Have you ever ridden in Peugeot?
Well, is that a French car too, Peugeot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the Citroen is.
Citroen, I have ridden.
That's actually pretty good.
I've ridden in a Citroen.
The fancy one. Now in Vietnam, you know, Vietnam was a former French colony, so they had a lot of the little boxy 2CV or whatever they were, Citroens.
The Volkswagen of Citroen.
Yeah, they looked like a Volkswagen that had starved for 20 years. Just not much more than a framework with a little metal over it. And
A little motor in the back where you pull the cord and start it like a lawnmower.
Yeah,
I'm teasing. But they were loud.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, they sounded like a lawnmower motor, didn't they?
They had those, and they had those Lambrettas, the scooter with.
I like those Lambrettas.
Yeah, with a little enclosure on the back where 84 people are riding. You know, pretty neat.
A little cart pulled by a moped, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they still use those in the Far East a lot.
Well, those little Lambrettas held up pretty good, didn't they?
Yeah.
They're a nice little scooter. Yeah.
But these were scooters with a little bus body built on the back, or a little pickup truck type body.
Well, we might come to that here.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, people are starting to trade in their SUVs and stuff. Not me, by the way. Rapid Ralph needs his SUV.
Have you seen that guy running around? He's got the little red car. It's just got one wheel in the back. It's the back half of it is a motorcycle, and the front half of it's a car.
Yeah, I have seen that.
It's a two-seater.
Yeah.
And he's running around town in it.
Now, some company in California I was looking at on the internet today has made one like that. It's registered as a motorcycle, but it's really a car. It's 3 wheels with one in the back, which makes it stable. Whereas if you have one wheel in the front, tricycle's not as stable.
Really?
And they say they can drive all the way across the U.S. on 1 tank of gas.
Wow.
It's a hybrid.
I was just thinking if I ever catch this guy stopped, I want to ask him what's his gas mileage. That's what, what's the gas mileage on those things. But those, and like you say, the Lambretta with the bus body on the back, how many people does it hold now? What? It holds 4.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Well, this one just holds 2 side by side.
Right.
And it's It's about maybe half the size of a regular car, but yet it's actually safer. They say they said they knew they couldn't sell it if they didn't make it safe. So it's built out of carbon composites and you know, aircraft grade carbon composites and everything. It's actually supposedly safer in a collision than being in a regular car.
It doesn't look it though, does it?
No, it doesn't look it.
Okay.
But it looks like almost like a flying saucer.
Yeah.
You know, it's
It's
really unique
vehicle.
looking.
But those little Lambrettas pulling a little bus body in the back,
Yeah.
I don't believe they'd be good for the mountains because I don't
No,
think
no,
they
they-
could handle the hills
Yeah,
here.
they
They're
can't.
good on flat ground.
Yeah.
And if they take a half a mile to get up to speed or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't believe they don't think they'd pull the hills here, which is a shame. Because I think it'd be good to go to more of that kind of stuff around here. With me talking, you know, you and I sitting here talking about it like we're driving some high mileage cars.
Well, I grew up during the 1950s, and you remember Popular Mechanics from back then. They had all the neat stuff we'd have by the time it was 2000 came around.
Yeah.
And we'd have atomic cars, and the gasoline internal combustion engine would be gone.
Right.
I really never thought that the internal combustion engine would last into the year 2000, but here we're still stuck with it.
And stuck with it is see, that's the operative
Yeah.
word. Stuck with it.
And
Precisely.
we're depending on a bunch of fermented leaves that are way down in the ground. That's essentially what oil is. It's what's left of organic matter from vegetation millions of years ago, and how much of that can there be? They aren't growing any more of it.
No, they're not. I have a friend who suddenly one day he came to this realization. He says, "We're driving on dinosaurs."
We are, yeah.
We are driving on dinosaurs. There's a little bit of dinosaur in every drop of gas.
Yeah, Sinclair used to have that one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Right. How?
That's true, and that stuff's got to be rotten by now.
It. Right.
And what happened to synthetic oil? You know, during World War II, the Germans, since they couldn't get regular oil, they started making synthetic oil and synthetic gasoline that actually worked.
Oh yeah, they also pulled fuel out of coal. They made
shale,
fuel oil
which
from
is something that we're being forced back to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I saw a neat documentary the other night. I rented on the underground factories and the Nazis had during World War II. I knew they had some. They made V2s and bombers and stuff in them. They've found something like 400 so far, and they think there could be as many as 800. They're still finding them.
Factories that
they're
underground.
They're underground, yeah. Mm-hmm. Of course, they used slave labor, and they just dug out scores of kilometers of tunnels.
Mm-hmm. And they've just closed them down. And you mean people are actually living on top of them and don't know they're down there? They really not have.
But of course, they do know a lot of there. The German government says it would cost too much to fill them in or destroy them.
Right.
But they keep them sealed up, and once a year, and part of the film was this German geologist that goes through and makes sure the ceiling's not falling down and stuff. So we got to see the interior of a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of big old dirty tunnels, but it's amazing the amount of work they did in it and how many people died making it.
Mm-hmm.
Because German doctors came up with the fact that if a slave laborer did what he was supposed to do, he'd last about 60 days.
Mm-hmm.
And they bring in more.
All right.
So, good thing they lost the war.
Yeah, it is.
Now, I was reading, of course, I'm interested in the V2 rocket. I've done a book about it and other stuff, but I was reading about the successor to that. They were planning on bombing New York with missiles. They had
they were about to come up with that much range from
the A9 and A10, which would become Vengeance weapons. Yeah, it was a two-stage rocket,
mm-hmm.
and they didn't quite have the guidance, the accurate guidance they needed.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually had a cockpit designed in it, and the guy would fly it in and parachute out at the last minute. They didn't go kamikaze like the Japanese, but so.
Well, the difference, but that's the difference between the Germans and the Japanese. Is a German would have aborted the mission and tried to land the thing.
And probably would have.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we owe a real vote of thanks to the World War II veterans who stopped the Nazis and the Japanese Empire, because they came a lot closer to winning than people realize.
Yeah.
And then we'd all be speaking German today, ah.
Right. But that was I mean, that was a war, and the stakes were real.
Yeah.
And the stakes were high, and you know, we could be living in a very different world today.
Yeah. Well, we're always in a war with opposing ideology. You know, we fought the communists for a long time. Hello
Have
there.
you found something you'd like to read us?
Just in.
This just in, you'd like to read
great
this?
news, and this is the best place to do it. I wanted to read this to somebody.
All right. Well, let me give
We
you.
only got a minute.
Let me give you a microphone.
Do we only have a minute?
You have a microphone now.
Yep. Okay. Vinyl returns in the age of MP3, and I'm going to read the last line, which is a quote by Shelby Lynn. What happened is the DJs they have USB coming out of their record player, so they can scratch and put it on the internet. And now it's like a lot of people are starting to press albums again, like Radiohead. All right. And Shelby Lynn says, let's see, there's nothing like putting a needle into the groove of a record. It's about as real as you can get. You got your vinyl, your weed, your friends, and while you're rolling, they're picking out another record. We're all taking music for granted because it's so easy to push a button. I mean, come on, music should be fun. You see?
That's good.
So.
Okay. Now, would you like to read us like the whole article or more of the article?
Well, it's a pretty big, long article.
That's all.
It's 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Does this end
He
at
goes
6?
to 7.
7. Oh, well then I could have calmed down and read it. Well, basically, I could tell you about the articles because it's basically. Let's see if I can find the numbers. Okay. Well, it's saying. Oh, I see. So let's see. In 2007, nearly 1 million LPs were bought, up from only 858,000 in 2006. Based on that, the sales for 2008, the figure could jump to 1.6 million by the end of the year. And let's see.
They say that sales of vinyl is on the increase.
It's on the comeback.
I read that article. That's true.
Yeah, people are getting.
Oh, well, that's a shame now after they've scrapped all the record presses.
Well, there's a couple left.
Yeah. Okay.
And then also they scrapped the tape machines. I don't even know how much analog tape costs these days. Has it gone up quite a bit?
It's expensive.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a machine. I've got one of the finest machines ever made.
Now you have 2-inch tape, right?
I've sold my 2-inch machine. I run half-inch.
Okay.
I run my stereo machine runs half-inch tape.
Right.
Runs 14-inch reels, which are really large. It runs tape at 30 inches per second.
Right.
Stereo half inch, which means about 1/4-inch tracks. And
how much? Do you know how much it costs nowadays to buy a roll of that tape?
Oh, I'm guessing a 10-inch reel is probably close to $50. I'd say close to $100 for a 14-inch reel. The big reel's about $100. Yeah.
See, I was thinking about 10 years ago it was $40.
No, not for half-inch. 14-inch reel.
Right.
Not 10-inch reel.
What's the standard size on like?
The standard big reel's 10-inch reel.
Okay.
But 14's
The standard was 10. They had 12 and 14.
14's.
What kind of machine do you have?
I have a Soundcraft Magnetics Series 20. There are 3 of these machines in the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
These are the ones you're saying that they're self-biasing?
Oh, you dropped your microphone. Came unplugged, didn't it?
Yep.
Did you unplug it or it just came out?
And now it just loose, I guess.
Oh, okay.
And these
it's
are the,
probably okay.
the self-biasing tape machines that you were telling me about, or is this something else?
Well, I mean, I adjust the bias on it. It's digitally controlled. I store the bias information in the digital memory, and then anytime I pull that tape, that brand of tape out again, and that make. All right.
I've enjoyed it, folks.
Yes.
Good seeing you.
Good seeing you.
See you, John.
Thank you for
Seeing the
dropping in,
audience.
Ralph.
Got more cookies there. This is Mexican Cookie Day. See.
Man, that sounds
Would you
good.
like some cookies?
You know what's crazy? I'm fighting a head cold, and it's June.
Uh huh.
So I'll stand back when I say it.
Yeah.
So I can't have sugar or anything that's going to feed it.
Really?
Yeah, it's a bummer getting a head cold in the summer.
Huh.
You know, you don't really associate it with summer. You associate it with winter.
So I take it that you like vinyl.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of vinyl.
Do you have vinyl? Do you have a turntable?
I haven't hooked it up in a long time.
That's the case with me.
Mhm.
I have, I need to. I've got a lot of vinyl.
I'm a big fan. I'm glad we're talking about this because this is something I think people should hear about. But I'm a big fan of vinyl, and I'm a big fan of film. As opposed to shooting digital.
Mhm.
But it really is a dying art,
Mm-hmm.
and I just don't know.
It's pretty much over.
Yeah, and I don't think.
Only peculiar artists will be using film.
Right. And the bummer is a lot of the old timers, like especially with analog, they want to keep their craft a secret, so not everybody's copying them. But that's how it was, 10 years ago. I was trying to find out about audiophile recordings, and people said, "Oh, then these old timers aren't going to tell you how they do it." Like Sheffield Labs or all those companies, and the bummer is it's just going to become obsolete as they die. It's just going to go with them, and film, especially because you have the developing and with lights and all that. I just don't see how anybody could be a Stanley Kubrick ever again. Now that's a bit of, he was cream of the cream. He could actually see how the camera would see. The stories were by Sidney Pollack. Unfortunately, he passed away this year. But what's great about interviews with him about Kubrick is Sidney was a director, and he said that Stanley would walk in to the set and say, "Who dimmed the lights? Half an f-stop." And everybody'd say, "What are you talking about?" And he'd say, "Give me a light meter," and he'd pull it out, and sure enough, it would be a f-stop off from the night before. So
A half a stop is hard to detect.
it's hard to detect, and so here's a man that could detect half an f-stop with his eyes. I just don't see the next generation of filmmakers ever coming close to seeing like film sees, and with audio, hearing like analog. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe it'll. But you agree? You think its time has passed?
Oh yeah, yeah. For a lot of reasons, mainly because the digital photography and stuff looks good.
Yeah.
It looks good, and it's easy.
It's convenient.
Right.
And that's the one thing with digital cameras. I remember when they were coming in, and I was really just getting into shooting with regular film and trying to find people to work with like models, and you'd take one picture and they'd say, "Okay, let me see it." You'd say, "No, this isn't digital," and everybody's attitude was, "Oh, so you're not professional, you're no good." And I was trying to explain, no, film is better. And from that point on, the rest of the shooting would just be them with a chip on their shoulder, thinking they're wasting their time. Right. And then I went out and I bought a $200 camera, basically, just a mediocre amateur camera. But I'd take their picture, they would look at their picture, and then they would smile, and that would encourage them to be a better, to take it further. And so that's the difference I found with video. It was easier to get people to do better performances, but you weren't capturing it as well as with analog, But with analog, it's harder to get them.
Right. Well, I was running into a similar situation in that I was recording on analog tape. And it's big, it's bulky, it's expensive, it's clunky. Also, the artists today can't wait for me to rewind the tape
Right.
If you can imagine that, they're like, "Let us hear it," and I'm like, "I'm rewinding the tape," and they're like,
Right.
and so I mean, and the fact that I was a holdout on analog for so many years really ruined my career to a large degree, because I mean, people took me aside, you know, that were professionals and stuff like that, and they said, "You're ruining your career because because of your unwillingness to embrace the digital domain."
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, as long as this is the format that digital is in, as long as this is the sampling rate and the bit depth and all that's available, I am not embracing it, because I know the physics of it. I'm not doing this.
Right.
You know, and that's a good rant for me to do right now, and that is that. Now anybody who's interested in music and audio and vinyl records and digital recordings and stuff like that, pay attention to this. Okay, now we want to go back to 1980. We're looking at around 79 or 80, surely by 80, was when they had a conference, and they had the president of Sony and the president of Philips, and I want to say RCA and maybe some others, you know, maybe it was Panasonic, I can't remember, but it was like all like the leaders were there in at that time, and the reason for it was to come up with a standardized format for digital audio. They were getting ready to come out with digital discs, which we know as CDs, and they wanted to come up with a standard that everybody would do it the same way. And they had their conference, and they came up with it, and I read about it in one of the trade magazines. And I'd been looking forward to digital audio discs for a while, because I had heard wonderful things about them. I had heard that you could lay them down on the table and take them and scratch them up with
They were indestructible.
with a pocket knife and throw them in there, and they'd play anyway.
Isn't that funny? So I was just
kinds,
saying, how did people ever come up with the rumor that they were indestructible? Like, why would you ever have thought?
Apparently, someone went around and did this demonstration. Now, I don't know what kind of optical discs they had, but anyway, so here it is, and I was looking forward to them, and I had heard, you know, we were talking, you know, this was to be pristine audio and stuff like that, and I read it, and it said 16-bit, which is minimal, believe me, and then it said it was a 44.1K sampling rate. Well, now I knew that the sampling rate has the effect effect on audio as the bias erase frequency does in analog, and I grew up being taught by my father, who was a recording engineer and stuff like that, that a professional recording system would have a bias erase frequency of 80 to 100K or more,
Right.
you know, or higher, which most of them went much higher later. Up into like doubling that and what have you, and so I saw that the bias frequency, or the sampling rate was roughly half what it, you know, half of its minimum, what it should be. So I knew it was going to be crap. And if you play the game, if you run, if you draw out what an analog audio signal would look like, and you put the grid down on top of it, that would be the thing, and then connect the dots to what that shows you what the reproduction of that would be. The high frequencies are, you can scarcely even see any relationship to what the originals were. You know, it's just high frequency noise up in that area. That's all you get out of it. And so I refused to accept it. Now we're talking about 1980.
Right.
Okay. Now in 1980, they chose a lowest common denominator, and they chose it so low that any country, any manufacturer with any amount of digital technology at all could manufacture a DVD player, or I mean a CD player. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean? Okay, so they did that. Even the lowest, some of the slowest chips out there would pass that much information, that many bits and bytes through them at that speed to reproduce audio. So they could. This was easy to do, but it, like I'm saying, it was. I considered it inferior in 1980. Now, since 1980, there have been, this is important now, this is an important part of what I'm trying to say. Since 1980, there have been great improvements in the digital domain. Mm-hmm. The number of bits and bytes that can be transferred from here to there, and the amount that we can store, and all of these have increased. Many, they have not doubled, they've not tripled, they've not quadrupled. They're huge, massive changes. Things that used to run at 100 kilocycles now are running at like 3 gigacycles and stuff like that. And storage media that used to storage, the amount of storage and stuff. I mean, everything. The numbers, the old numbers are insignificant compared to today's numbers. The improvement. Look at any digital technology, and if you can look all the way back to 1980. How old are you? How old were you in 1980? Were you born?
Mm-hmm. I would have been 8 years old.
8 years old. Can you remember? Do you have any inkling of digital technology in 1980? Mm-mm. Surely you could have, by the time you were like 12 or 15, you saw some of
getting rid of their cassettes and getting CD players.
Okay, but surely you saw some of the older digital technology from that period, computers and stuff. I
remember Sting was putting on his albums recorded in digital, you'd buy it in vinyl, so it was the worst of both worlds.
Well, anyway, so that's. But if you'll think, I mean, what a computer could do then compared to what it, I mean, clunky piece of junk. No, who in their right mind in today's digital world would be trying to, like do professional work, for instance, on a computer with 1980 technology? To it, nobody would. Who in their right mind would be running everything with programs with 1980s technology?
But now they haven't done anything with the K, right? That's still the same.
But the CD, the audio CD, if you go to the store and you buy an audio CD, come on in, please, and have a seat and keep your mouth shut and
learn. We're talking about analog. Versus digital.
I brought my own tea.
All right, and okay, so who in their right mind would embrace a digital technology from 1980? Well, let me tell you, if you go to the store and if you buy a CD, you buy a CD whose digital format was decided in 1980. It is a technology that has not progressed one iota since 1980. Not a bit, not a speck. It is exactly the same. The same disc that you bought in 1980 will play on the CD player. The disc you buy today will play on the CD player that was made in 1980. Right. It has the same number of bits per byte. There is no improvement. The only improvement that was made was they eventually came around with a system where you could burn them at home.
Right. Nice.
But the format was the same, and the then inferior audio that was coming out of them is still the same. And I just wanted to say that.
Good. We needed to get that out there.
Do you understand that? I do physics of it and stuff like that?
I got distracted because we have new people in here.
So if you're buying digital music in any way in today's market, you're getting You're getting ripped off. You're buying an old technology that is so
Ancient, outdated technology.
from 1980.
I remember the computer. The first computer we ever had was a Texas Instruments thing, and all it did was like math. It was like you had, like the math game, and it was like 4 times 7.
What's wrong with the math game? I love math games.
Okay, but from that,
very good at
from
them, but-
Texas Instruments in 1980 to the computer I have in my house right now, and what the differences and what they
I
can
told you
do
to
Right.
are incredible.
Except the one you got now is huge.
All right.
Yes, it's what-
Comparison.
Guess what? Y'all are just here in time for.
The 420 roll.
What time is it?
And it's about 6:20.
6:20. Yeah, we're just 2
Well,
hours
if
late.
this show had come on at 4 a.m., I mean 2 a.m.,
2 a.m. And then,
Right, then it would-
the rerun at this part
It
of
would
the show
be
will be at 4.
4:20. Yeah,
Cool.
so
I'm gonna go sit over there.
You are.
That's alright with you and your bag.
That's not my
he
bag.
will love it. Move that bag into that box, and he will love having you sit beside him.
To balance out the.
Closer to John.
Okay.
Okay.
So you, I
Oh,
know.
there's a bunch of
Yes.
diplomas in this trash bag.
Uh-huh.
And Adam.
That's awesome.
That's I give those to my students.
Who are you?
Oh, this is Stitch.
Stitch. I'm
This
ready.
is Stitch.
Ricky?
She's got to be
Raven.
good.
Raven.
That's the promise.
Nice to meet you.
That's the promise.
No foul
Did you
language.
bring a guitar
Yes,
or
no.
anything?
I did not. I asked Adam, and he said maybe not because the hospital has me on a whole bunch of
Oh, really?
Vicodins and whatnot because of I'm not really gonna say.
Okay.
It's a horrible sort of thing, you know. I'm probably gonna die, but
Really?
no.
All right. Well,
But it makes for interesting television. Let's run with that.
okay. We'll try.
So what are you going to do with the last
Hey,
few
we
minutes
need-
of your life?
Just that camera.
Well,
I know.
hopefully, I
Be on the
will
show.
find a concubine of sorts that is short and ill-equipped. By which I mean, you know, there's little people.